Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President. As a servant to the people of Queensland and Australia, I want to use this speech to ask the government to start governing. Where's the vision in this government? What about Australia's productive capacity in the future? Madam Acting Deputy President, governance has three parts: trusteeship, which is looking after the values of the country, the principles; secondly, stewardship, which is about managing; and thirdly, governorship, which is about making sure that the country has a future. Minister Littleproud was asked about water storage some time ago, and he responded by saying, in response to finding out that the water storage is depleting and, in fact, storage per person is reducing by 30% by 2030, a critical infrastructure feature, something that Australians, humans in general, must have: water. His response was, a lack of planning. There has only been, this is a quote, a lack of planning. There has only been 20 dams built since 2003. 16 of them have been built in Tasmania, 4 over the rest of the country. It is time for the eastern states to do their job, he says. They have done 3/5 of bugger all, he says. It is time for them to start planning and start building, he says. There is no reason to stop. Now is the time to do it. When it's dry, to start digging the holes. And again, he says, release some of the figures on the water storage state by state. In Queensland, his home state, by the way, it's gone from 2.78 gigalitres per person to 1.75. That shows that there's been no planning. This is Minister Littleproud talking. That shows that there's been no planning, no thinking, and if we continue to get a population increase, which we will, we're naturally getting through that through migration. Is that we have to have the state governments have water, which is a source of life for all of us. So the minister knows, he's the Minister for Water, he knows that water is the source of life, but he admits there's no plan for the productive future of this country. This government is reacting and building facades, and that's bringing this government undone. We dodged a bullet when we fortunately did not have Mr Shorten elected as Prime Minister. But this government thinks that putting on a farmer's shirt and a baseball cap or a high-vis vest or a hard hat and safety glasses is governance and leadership. It's not. So I ask Mr Morrison, where the bloody hell are you? Look at energy, with prices skyrocketing. We went from the lowest prices of electricity in the world under stable, secure supply to now the highest prices in the world. Same basic resource for generating electricity, yet our prices have increased, while our competitors like China take our coal and use it to provide cheap, clean, affordable, reliable, environmentally responsible electricity. Water. Quantities of water are drying up. The prices of water are skyrocketing. As for property rights, farmers can no longer manage their land because the bureaucrats are managing from it. They've had their land, their property rights stolen from them. And we say to those farmers, we will keep pushing for restoration of your property rights stolen by the John Howard government in collusion with Labor Party premiers and National Party premiers in the states of Queensland and New South Wales. We will seek restoration or compensation. We have a natural drought that is a part of Australia's cycle of climate, but we have a man-made water crisis. We have free trade agreements that are undermining Australian industry. We have a taxation system that lets multinationals get away with paying no tax or little tax. And that's been the case since 1953, thanks to a Liberal Prime Minister in Sir Robert Menzies. And a lot of these policies, Madam Acting Deputy President, are underpinned by the climate scam. Never has there been any empirical evidence proving human carbon dioxide affects climate. The Greens continue. They're on day 63 of being unable to provide that. They continue to avoid that, and yet we have these policies: property rights, energy prices skyrocketing, lack of water, high prices. And then there's one not based on climate, and that is the banks. The banks are enabled by both Liberal and Labor Party to have a go, the 4 major banks to have a go at every Aussie so that Aussies are not being given a fair go. I've seen companies fail Madam Acting Deputy President. I've rescued companies. I've established a pioneering world-class project that led its way internationally and certainly in Australia. And I know that the solution to this country's problems is having a government with a long-term focus that wants to restore Australia's productive capacity, a government that makes decisions based on solid data, calmly makes decisions on facts, and has a proactive approach with a plan. That's leadership, understanding and meeting people's needs cohesively, holistically, consistently, driving a vision, driving to a vision. Those who stand for nothing will fall for anything, and that's exactly what we're seeing in the governance of this country under both the Liberal and Labor parties under their duopoly. And right now, we are witnessing the disintegration of a government because people are waking up. They were certainly terrified of the thought of Mr. Bill Shorten as Prime Minister, but now they're realising that Mr. Morrison is just a facade builder and a marketing man. So where the bloody hell are you? And by the way, the ABC is now inciting violence, and yet the government wants to fund it further. I say, One Nation says, close the ABC or sell it. They recently revealed in Senate estimates under questioning from myself and Senator Hanson that they got the Al Jazeera tapes, which were a fabrication, in January and 5 months later put it to air, just before an election. That's interfering. The government is paying for the ABC to interfere, to enable the foreign power to interfere in our government, in our political system. And that's why we're questioning the government's lack of vision, philosophy and values. Where the bloody hell are you? This bill highlights the piecemeal approach that's poor governance. Australians want and Australia needs a vision, strategies and plans based on objective data. And we need to start doing that with starting to restore property rights for farmers, restoration or compensation. We will be supporting these appropriation bills, Madam Acting Deputy President, but we highlight the fact that these bills are exposing government's failure to manage this country, to govern this country. Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President.